Hey everybody, I'm John. This is the Midnight Paint and Body channel, and welcome to part 2 of the 77 F250 restoration. On this video, we're going to move back onto the box and try and get it buttoned up. Alright, so here's the truck. So if you've watched part 1, you've seen this. I'm actually not even done the part 1 video yet. I'm still working on it. But I realized the video was just going to get too long if I continued, so I decided to stop this one, and we'll just start on a part 2 and we'll get back to the box. So this truck is a 77 F250 Highboy. Very cool truck. So far, we've got the cab all done and in primer, door jambs painted. I've got the doors and fenders and hood all primed and inners painted. I've painted the frame. Now this is, this isn't real restoration stuff. This is just POR 15 on the frame. I just cleaned everything up and painted it black. So it's going to, it'll last if this truck isn't going to see bad weather. And it makes it look nice and clean. Like I said in the last video, not every one of these jobs is $100,000, $150,000. And you get into, stripping the cab off the frame and then stripping the frame down and sandblasting and painting and rebuilding all the components and then sandblasting and painting the underside of the cab. And, that's what they end up costing. So this isn't that job. This is still a really nice job, and it's going to be a really nice truck. But I figured in this video we're going to jump back to the box, which as you can see is kind of a disaster right now. But a while back I had done a video on building a brand new box for this F250. Didn't turn out as I planned because I didn't realize that these filler pieces, supports, are not available aftermarket. I think I mentioned before, when I ordered these parts, I said to the guy, just get me everything to build a brand new box for this truck. So I thought I had everything, just not knowing. I haven't done one before, so now I know that we need those supports. You can't get them aftermarket, unfortunately. So we're gonna have to go to our original box off the truck. Now, I know guys are going to hate this, but I am going to buck this thing up for parts, but it's junk. There are no good panels on this thing, guys. Like this box is garbage. As you can see, the floor is completely gone. The braces are gone. The bed sides, yeah, you stand back and look at them, they look okay, but they're junk. There's nothing good. These are full of filler. Yeah. So don't cringe when I cut this thing up, but it is not worth saving anything. So these are the supports that we need to get out of this thing. They are unfortunately not in very good shape. You can see, so these should have had metal coming down around where they're plug welded. It's been all kind of gone over with body filler and whatnot. This inner piece is gone. It's got kind of a support up into the back, but I just can't get them. So I'm going to grab my Sawzall and we're just going to start cutting the back corner off of this thing and see what we have. Yeah, I'm obviously going to have to do some rebuilding on them, but let's just start cutting this thing apart and see what we have. go grab an air chisel and continue cutting this thing down and see what we have. There's our pillar that we need. Unfortunately, this whole bottom is gone here, and this whole area where it joins to the back panel is gone as well. But I don't think it'll be too bad to rebuild. Yeah, I kind of twisted it up there a bit, cutting it off there, but yeah, I just hammered it back straight, so not a big deal. So I'll continue stripping some of the old metal off of this a little bit. I'll get the other one off, and then we can move on to maybe sandblasting these and see what we have to work with. Well, back on the truck box finally. So I have taken our supports from the old box, and they're not very good, but they are what we have. So also the inner wheelhouse pieces, you know, I looked at them in that box before and I thought, oh, I can salvage those. Well, I went out there today to cut them out and I was like, yeah, they're not going to come out of there in one piece. So I ordered new ones, so hopefully they won't take too long to get here. So here's basically what we have to work with here. So is this the right one? Yes, this is the right one. So this is going to have to mount right in that corner. So our tailgate hinges go there, and then our top latches go to there. So yeah, this whole piece is rotten, so I'm gonna have to rebuild this whole bottom, and then this should also, camera there, have a flange coming out that welds to this back panel this way. So obviously this whole back end in here is going to need to be rebuilt, but you know, I don't think it's as bad as it looks. We can't get them, so we got to use them. So I'm going to pop this bedside off of here. I'm going to want to prop this box up better too before welding anything. You can see the floor is kind of doing a bow on this cart I've got it sitting on because it's got no support with no sides or anything welded on. So these are just sitting on here. They just scratched the ball. But it doesn't matter. I'm going to paint the whole inside of that box again. I'm not happy with the paint on it, so I figured once it was all welded together, I'll give the whole inside of the box a scuff, give it some seam sealer, and I'll give it all a fresh coat of paint. So yeah, so this guy is going to live right there. Oh. I am also looking at this on here for the first time. I can see all the factory spot welds were there. This kind of lines up with some holes right there. Now, of course, I'm going to need to kind of tack everything and completely fit the tailgate and everything before I can even really start rebuilding these things. But yeah, just not a hell of a lot there to work with. But that gives you an idea. Gives you an idea of what we got. So I'm going to grab some clamps and just kind of clamp this guy in place. Maybe we'll pull that other bedside off. And we'll go from there. Well, here's kind of an idea what we've got. It doesn't really fit too great. And I always thought it was weird the way these new sides fit or don't fit to this back panel. Both sides are the same. I'm not very familiar with these Ford trucks, so I don't know if that's somewhat normal. But I didn't realize when I painted this bed floor just how tweaked this back end is too. I'm gonna need to roll that out. And if you look down this, it's sticking out at the bottom on that end. So I've definitely got some fitting ahead of me. So I think I have decided that I'm just going to spend the rest of the day cleaning up, and I can start with a fresh canvas on this in the morning. I will get this moved into a spot where I can actually put a level on it, and I'm going to get it on blocks. I'm going to make sure this box is sitting completely square before I start trying to fit any more pieces. Because this is looking like a headache. And I think I'd rather start with a fresh mind. It's getting close to the end of the day, so yeah, I think we'll just do some cleanup, worry about this tomorrow. So I'm back here on the F250 box. I apologize in advance if this video is a little jumbled, but I've been working on other jobs and making other videos all kind of throughout this process here. But where we left off, I had these rear supports trimmed off. Now this one, I have gone ahead a little bit and started to rebuild it. So I have put this panel back in. So this will be drilled and plug welded to that back brace. It'll be plug welded here, here, all down the back. I guess on this side. So this will be drilled and plug welded right around and here as well. So this is the other panel that I made and have used to rebuild here. So, as you can see, these are structural. These are welded in very solid once they get welded in. So this one needs more work than that one did, so we need to, like I did on that side, build that piece that comes out here, but I'm gonna have to make this whole piece, I think, because obviously we're all rotten there. And yeah, this one's a lot worse on this side too, so I'm gonna need to rebuild up a lot higher. Yeah, we're rusted through there, so I'm probably gonna have to come all the way up to here and make this piece that's gonna go to roughly there. So I just didn't want to get too far ahead of where I am. If anyone is actually watching this, if you are, I appreciate it. So I'm going to move on to start rebuilding that. So what's going to happen here, I'm going to need to clamp these in place, and then I'm going to need to fit all the tailgate parts. So you can see I've put this one hinge piece on there. So I have all the tailgate stuff here. There's the one for the other side. And then I will actually need to hang the tailgate on here to make sure I've got my opening correct. So I'll be able to, at that point, I think when I hang the tailgate and I've got it exactly where I want it, then I can tack weld these pieces. Although I would like to epoxy prime them before welding them on. That way all the back sides and everything gets primer. So anyway, there's your check-in. I'm going to move on and keep rebuilding on that. Maybe I'll show you some of it, but it's just some basic metal work. But yeah, we'll be back shortly. So I've jumped ahead a little bit here, doing a little bit of metal work. So I have made, as you can see, this cardboard template for this area. Just hard to fit into place with one hand. So, and then I have transferred that onto a nice heavy piece of 16 gauge sheet metal. So, because this is fairly structural, this needs to be heavy. And so yeah, there's the piece I've come up with. So it doesn't quite fit in there until I trim this off, but what I'm kind of hoping to do here is to trim this piece back, but I would like to trim it in a way that I'm going to retain these holes. I can line this one up to those holes, and then I'll start tacking it in place, and then I'll trim whatever is left behind off. So, will that work? I'm not sure, but that's what I'm going to try and do. So, yeah, I think that piece turned out pretty decent. So I'll start trimming this. You know, I might even just, well, I guess with that off, I won't even be able to put it on the truck. This is going to need to be tacked on before I even have a way to get it on there. So at this point, I think I'm talking to myself. So I'm going to go ahead and trim this up and see what I can do with it. Right, we can test fit that guy back on the box. Well, hello. I've made a little progress since I had the camera on. So I took our rebuilt supports off this morning. I just gave them a quick coat of epoxy primer. And I've got them just kind of clamped in place. And obviously put the hinges on and set our tailgate on. So basically what I've done is just made sure I've got just even gaps for the tailgate, so we're sitting in the right place. Yeah, it's a little creative sometimes, piece of cardboard to hold that gap there. But now I can start cleaning some of the stuff up a little bit. I can start doing these plug welds, so these can get welded on permanently. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Now, unfortunately, once those are on, I can put the bed sides on, but there are these supports that go from here to the top lip of the bed side. Now, I totally dropped the ball on those. I thought the ones on the box were usable. Then when I looked again, when I went to cut them off, I realized that, yeah, they're not going to be usable by the time I cut them off. So I did order new ones, and I just don't know when they're coming, so might be a little bit of a delay on this. But anyway, I'm going to weld these on and then we'll see what's next. So there is our supports welded in place. So we now have a functional tailgate. So there we are. Oh, I got a couple little welds to do on the inside still. But that it fits good. Our gaps stayed where they're supposed to be. Actually, this one opened up just a little bit, but that tailgate does move around a bit on those pivots. So, oh, yeah, it kind of slides around a little bit. So that's one more thing out of the way. It's funny, those support pieces I was kind of dreading because I thought they were going to be a nightmare to rebuild, but they weren't bad at all. So I guess we'll clean up those welds a little bit, get a little primer on them, and then I will figure out what I'm going to work on next. So it turns out those other bed support pieces that I'm waiting on, I phoned about at lunchtime, and they were actually being shipped out of the US today. I thought they were, I was expecting them any day. I thought when I ordered them they were shipped, but apparently not. So we got to find something else to do on the truck for a while if I can't put the bed sides on. I don't feel like prepping on the cab yet, so I figure we're going to move on to these flares. Now, this truck had these era-correct plastic flares. Customer wants to keep them on there, and I don't blame them. I thought they looked really cool on there. They fit the truck, they fit the era. No one seems to make these for these old trucks anymore. We kind of looked for a new set. But these have quite a few cracks. They're not too bad. Mostly on the inside here from where they were drilled for those huge rivets that were holding them on. So I figured we'll start with this one, because it is obviously the worst. It's just hanging on by a thread there. And I'll show you what I'm going to use. Most guys will run away from this stuff, but I don't mind doing plastic repair at all. So I don't have a lot left, but what I've got, so this is a Dominion Sure-Seal plastic surgery. If you watch my channel, you've seen me use this stuff before, and I really like it. So we're going to be using some of that, and we're going to be using some of this drywall tape to give it a little strength, and we're going to fix up these cracks. So I figure we'll just start with this big one here. So first thing I like to do is to kind of get it back into shape. Some tape on the outside there is going to hold it right where it needs to be. Same time. And that one. I'm just going to take my little belt sander and clean off the areas where we're going to be putting the adhesive. So this stuff is just 1-to-1. Just mix it up really good. And there are a bunch of different ones of these. There's rigid plastic, flexible plastic. I think there's like a semi-flexible one. This is the flexible one. I have fixed a ton of plastic bumper covers, dually bed sides, all kinds of things with this stuff, and I've never ever had a problem with it. And there's basically all there is to it. Put it over the crack. Smush a piece of this drywall tape stuff over it. And once that cures, we'll flip it over and do the outside. So there's our inside repairs cured up pretty good. It's not completely cured, but close enough. So you can see this is the one that was broken all the way through, was hanging apart. So you can see this stuff is pretty darn good. Now, I'm not sponsored or anything with this stuff, you guys. I'm going to show you just because I really like this stuff. Dominion Sure-Seal. This is the flexible one. What is the number on this? It is a XPST 4008. So, yeah, So just so you know what I'm using, if you want to do some of these kind of repairs. So sometimes I would redo this process on the outside. I honestly don't think it's going to be necessary. I'm just going to grind these spots off and finish this off with a little more of that filler. Got all our plastic repairs all repaired, glued on all 4 flares. So I just kind of wanted to show you guys how nicely this stuff sands up. So I'm just starting with some 100 grit on the orbital. Well, there you are. This stuff sands nice. It works really good. So, you know, don't be afraid of plastic repairs. And you can see it's flexible. I've never had this stuff fail. So I'm going to keep sanding on this flare a bit. Day's just about done. Maybe we'll come back for one more look. So there's what our repair is going to look like. Basically finished up, ready for primer. So the inside as well. Actually there was a little crack there that I missed, and another one at the bottom. But this was the worst of the flares. So that one, yeah, now it can sit all weekend. It is the end of the day, Friday. So I'm going to finish these up, and then next week we'll get back on the truck. I don't know what we'll do. Maybe we'll start prepping, but we're going to keep working on this thing. See you then. Well, we're halfway through Monday here, guys. I've got the flares all ready for primer. Pretty much one last little bit of putty to sand. So as you can see, basically all stripped down to plastic. All the repairs are done. Still super flexible. And I know, like I said in the beginning, I know guys will be going, oh, I didn't just buy a new set. Well, it's a 77 Ford. They're not exactly on the shelf these days. So anyway, so we'll get those in primer here shortly. Again, Dominion Sure Seal plastic surgery. This stuff is awesome. It is not sponsored or anything like that. I'm just showing you because it's great stuff. I mean, if you use this stuff, if you try it and you like it, I mean, you can always contact Dominion Sure Seal, let them know where you saw it. You know, I don't have any sponsors, but it'd be nice to have a few. Anyway, guys, so yeah, those are ready for primer. I'm going to leave them for now. Still waiting on the pieces for the box. I think I'm just going to jump over to the cab of the truck. I'm going to start prepping this thing. I'm going to get up on a ladder, probably start at the roof, start blocking everything out. Not going to record much of that because that is boring stuff. But I will keep you guys in the loop as we move along. Well, I have jumped ahead on you guys again because nobody wants to watch prepping. So I've got the truck pretty much all blocked out. I'm going to give a little more primer on the roof. There's just a few burn throughs on the roof and a couple of these kind of burn throughs on the doors. And so I had to putty a small spot. I had to reshape this cab corner just a little bit, so I've kind of blocked that right down to filler again. So pretty basic. Yeah, I guess this side's the same. You know, I probably could at this point seal and paint, but I like to reprime all these burn throughs where there's raw fillers showing. So there's those, and of course the flares. So the flares have a lot of raw plastic, so those will get a coat of a plastic adhesion promoter, and then a couple of coats of high build primer. So yeah, that stuff all is basically just a coat of high build, and then I will lightly block it again, and this cab will be, for the most part, ready to paint. I actually, well, it's only Tuesday today, so I'm planning on painting the cab this week. So I'm going to carry on with some priming, bring you guys back when there's more interesting stuff to see. So I'm still moving right along in the old Ford here, guys. You know, the cab is pretty much prepped for paint. It's very close. So I am just stripping this black part of the dash right now. I figure we'll get some paint on this before painting the outside. This will just get probably coat of aerosol primer and then some aerosol trim black. So that'll be looking nice before our new windshield gets put back in. So I'm gonna keep plugging along with this. And yeah, we're getting close. Well, guys, I have not bothered recording up until now because it's a bunch of boring stuff. But I believe I've got the cab of this truck ready to paint. So a couple things I need to do. I need to take off the front bumper, but because it's got this winch running through it, I'm just going to unbolt it and let it hang off the cable, because that's kind of how I took it off. I need to get out of the way of those fenders. Other than that, I have, since we saw last, I have put sound deadener throughout the cab. So that's all done. Did the roof, so I bought a 30 square foot, I think is what it was, kit of this kill mat, and it actually was just a perfect amount to do the floor and the roof. I used every single piece, even a few scraps, just to fill in a couple small spots. So that was, yeah, perfect amount for pickup cab. And yeah, I have put in the weather stripping. Now, I need to sneeze. Excuse me. These doors are super tight. I remember this from the last time I did one of these, so you can see. So these take a little bit of force to close, and it is throwing the gaps out a little bit, but those should compress. I should have put those in long ago. Woo! Holy moly. Yeah, we've got a bit of a thunderstorm going on right now. So anyway, those weather strips should compress over time. I should have put them in first thing, and so they have time to squish and settle, but whatever, they're in there now. Let's go have a look outside. Oh, and one other thing I did. I just cut that hole in the back of the cab for the cab light, because I won't say I'd forgotten, I knew I had to do it, but I knew the roof skin I put on didn't have that hole, so I've measured everything, made a little template, and just cut that. So yeah, we're getting a pretty good little rain, so I'm not going to complain about that because we need it badly. So back to the truck. So I think I'm going to get this thing into the paint booth, kind of get it in there and get it set up, and then I'm going to finish prepping this hood. I'm hoping maybe once the truck's in there I can set up the hood. I've done this on trucks before. Put it on some blocks, set it on the back of the frame. That way I can paint the hood at the same time as the truck. I could bolt it onto the truck, but I always like, this is just a me thing, I always like painting hoods off just to save leaning over the fenders and of course the sanding and polishing that it will require before it goes on the truck. It's a whole lot easier to do it on a stand than up high on one of these trucks. So that it's just a homemade paint booth thing. There's another big crack of thunder. Anyway, I'm gonna get this in the booth before the power goes out, because that tends to happen when we get storms around here. So try and get some more work done today before I get shut down for weather. Well, good morning. It is actually Saturday today. My intention was to paint this truck yesterday, but man, you know, the day just got away from me. I had just one of those Fridays. I had quite a few customers stopping by for estimates and stuff, which is fine, but by the time I had this ready to paint, it was 3 o'clock Friday afternoon, and I was hot and tired and just not into it, so I decided to leave it for Saturday morning, which is now. So we're gonna get some paint on this old girl. So as you can see, I've got the hood mounted up on the back of the truck instead of the front of the truck, but I kind of explained why I do them that way. So everything is ready to go. I just need to tack it and mix up some sealers. So I do these different all the time. I typically will prep for paint so that sealer isn't required, but being this is kind of a red, I know it's like copper, but it's kind of a reddish color. I don't expect it's going to cover super well, so I think we're going to go with a coat of sealer on this one. And so yeah, so there's the difference with prepping for sealers. So small little things, small little burn throughs and stuff. If I was prepping just for paint, I would have put a little primer on that, give it a scuff, but being that I'm giving it a coat of sealer, those small burn throughs and stuff are fine. So I'm gonna go mix up some sealer, I'm gonna suit up, and we're gonna start spraying this thing. Well, it's a little later in the day, still Saturday. Figured I'd bring you guys in for a little sneak peek. There it is. That's all I'm showing you. Just kidding. Let's go and have a look. Oh, here she is. So this is 1977 Ford Code Z, copper poly. So nice color. I know a lot of these vintage colors, now this would have been just like a single stage lacquer in 77, but so a lot of these colors now, when we mix them with modern materials, they look a lot more vibrant. So this is that's a great looking color. And everything turned out nice. So few dust nibs in the hood, but you know, it's honestly not bad at all. A little dust and dirt is normal when you're painting in the old homemade paint booth like I do, but this will get a light sand and polish, and that'll take care of all of that. So it will look good. But yeah, I am very happy with this. Everything, you know, I've kind of looked all down the sides, and everything is nice and straight. So she is going to be one good looking truck. So I think what I'm going to do, guys, I'm going to end this video here. I did want to, I mean, initially I thought I was going to do this whole damn truck in one video, but taking longer than expected, so I will end this one. Next video for sure, I have all the parts now so I can finish the box. Next video for sure, I will have this thing completely painted and assembled, and it will be a finished truck for us all to see. So stay tuned, subscribe so you don't miss that, and as always, thanks so much for watching. Hope to see you in the next one.